Picture this. You step into a room and without uttering a word, every head turns. The chatter fades. The air grows heavy with anticipation. Not because you shouted, not because you demanded attention, but because your presence alone commands it. This is not a scene from a movie. This is the raw, unfiltered power of strategic silence, a weapon wielded by the sharpest minds in history, none more cunning than Machiavelli. In a world suffocating under the weight of noise, endless social media rants, desperate pleas for validation, and the constant hum of oversharing, those who master silence rise above the chaos. They don't just survive, they dominate. Why? Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is control. Silence is power. Today, you're about to learn how to harness this ancient art to outmaneuver, outsmart, and outlast anyone who stands in your way. Stay with me. This knowledge will redefine how you navigate the world. Let's start with a question that cuts to the core. When was the last time you held your tongue and won? When did you resist the urge to react, to argue, to prove yourself, and instead let silence work its magic? If you're drawing a blank, don't worry, you're not alone. Modern life is a siren song of noise. We're bombarded with messages to speak up, share everything, be transparent, be seen. But what if the true path to power lies in defying this chaos? What if the secret to commanding respect, influence, and victory is not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say? Machiavelli, the Renaissance's master strategist, understood this truth in a world far more brutal than ours. His insights, forged in the fires of political intrigue and betrayal, are not relics of the past. They're a blueprint for dominance in today's noisy, distracted world. Let's dive into his secrets and uncover how strategic silence can make you unstoppable. Part 2. The Weapon of Patience. The greatest harm is done by the silent majority, Machiavelli noted, not because they act rashly, but because they wait. Patience is not weakness, it's predatory. In a culture addicted to instant gratification, the ability to delay, to bide your time, is a superpower. Modern life pushes us to react immediately, to respond to every email, counter every insult, seize every opportunity the moment it appears. But haste is the enemy of strategy. When you react on impulse, you expose your weaknesses. When you wait, you gain clarity, insight, and control. Imagine a rival who provokes you, hoping to draw a reaction. Maybe it's a snide comment in a meeting, a passive-aggressive email, or a subtle jab on social media. The modern impulse is to fire back, to prove your strength, to show you're not to be trifled with. But what if you did nothing? What if you smiled, nodded, and let their words linger in the air like a bad odor? Their confidence falters. They start to second-guess. They wonder what you're planning, what you know, what you're hiding. This is the psychological edge of silence. It turns your enemy's mind against them. Their imagination becomes your ally, conjuring threats where none exist, sowing doubt where certainty once stood. Let's apply this to a modern scenario. Office politics. A colleague undermines you in a team meeting, questioning your work in front of the boss. Your instinct is to defend yourself, to argue, to set the record straight. But what if you paused? What if you said, "Interesting point, I'll consider it," and moved on? Over the next few days, you observe. You notice who they talk to, what they prioritize, where they slip up. You build alliances quietly, deliver results consistently, and let their loud complaints alienate others. When the time comes, a key project, a promotion, a moment of influence, you strike with precision, using their overconfidence against them. Their earlier jab? Forgotten. Your quiet competence? Undeniable. This is patience weaponized. Machiavelli's genius was in seeing time as a tool of conquest. "Fortune is a woman," he wrote, "and if you wish to master her, you must strike at the right moment." Silence buys you that moment. It gives you the space to observe patterns, anticipate moves, and prepare your response. In a world where everyone is racing to be first, the one who waits often finishes strongest. Think of a chess grandmaster studying the board while their opponent fidgets. Every move the opponent makes reveals their strategy, their fears, their limits. The grandmaster doesn't rush. They wait, they calculate, and when they move, it's checkmate. Here's another example: social media warfare. Someone attacks you online, posting a snarky comment or a veiled accusation. The crowd eggs you on, expecting a fiery comeback. But instead of engaging, you stay silent. You let the attacker's words sit, exposed to scrutiny. Their followers may cheer at first, but soon the lack of response gnaws at them. They post again, more aggressively, desperate for a reaction. Meanwhile, you're gathering screenshots, noting their allies, and crafting a response, if one is even needed. Often their own escalation backfires, alienating their audience or exposing their pettiness. Your silence didn't just protect you, it dismantled them. Patience through silence is not about inaction. It's about strategic timing. It's about refusing to play the game on your opponent's terms. Machiavelli understood that power is not won by reacting to every provocation, but by choosing when and how to act. In your life, this might mean waiting out a toxic boss until their mistakes catch up with them. It might mean holding back a business idea until the market is ripe. It might mean letting a personal rival exhaust themselves while you conserve your energy. Whatever the context, silence gives you the upper hand by giving you time. Time to plan, time to observe, time to win. Part 3. Feigning weakness. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak, Machiavelli advised in The Prince. This counterintuitive tactic is a masterstroke of deception. In a culture that glorifies flexing, on social media, in boardrooms, in everyday arguments, showing vulnerability can be your sharpest weapon. Why? Because it disarms. It lulls your opponents into complacency, inviting them to underestimate you. And when they do, they expose themselves, their strategies, their arrogance, their blind spots. Consider a startup founder competing in a cutthroat industry. At a conference, they downplay their company's progress, speaking modestly about early stages and learning curves. Competitors smirk, assuming they're no threat. Meanwhile, the founder's team is finalizing a game-changing product, ready to disrupt the market. When the launch comes, the competition is blindsided, scrambling to catch up. This isn't luck, it's strategy. By appearing weak, the founder invited overconfidence, and overconfidence is a fatal flaw. Or take a personal example, a debate with a know-it-all colleague. They dominate the conversation, eager to prove their superiority. You could argue back, matching their intensity. But instead, you concede minor points, ask questions, and let them talk themselves into a corner. Their ego takes over, and they overreach, making claims they can't defend. Then, with a single, well-crafted point, you dismantle their argument. The room takes notice, not because you shouted, but because you outplayed them. This is the power of feigned weakness. It turns your opponent's strength into their downfall. Machiavelli's insight here is rooted in human nature. People are quick to dismiss those they perceive as non-threatening. A loud, aggressive opponent commands caution, but a quiet, unassuming one invites recklessness. By saying little, by appearing less formidable, you create a trap. Your silence amplifies this tactic, signaling humility or hesitation while you quietly sharpen your blade. Think of it as a martial artist who lowers their stance, inviting an attack, only to counter with devastating precision. The principle is the same: sacrifice a pawn to capture the queen. Let's explore this in a social context. Imagine you're new to a social circle, surrounded by established players vying for status. The modern instinct is to assert yourself, crack jokes, share stories, prove you belong. But what if you held back? What if you listened, observed, and let others compete for the spotlight? Over time, their egos clash, their insecurities surface, and their alliances fray. Meanwhile, you build quiet connections, earn trust through restraint, and position yourself as the steady center of the group. When you finally act, whether it's leading a project or resolving a conflict, your influence is undeniable. You didn't demand respect. You earned it by letting others underestimate you. Feigning weakness is not about cowardice, it's about psychology. Machiavelli understood that arrogance blinds and silence exploits that blindness. In business, this might mean letting a competitor think they've won a contract, only to swoop in with a better offer at the last moment. In negotiations, it's conceding small points to make your opponent feel superior, then securing the deal on your terms. In life, it's letting a critic mock you publicly, knowing their overreach will alienate their audience, while your restraint wins allies. The key is patience and precision, qualities silence cultivates. Part 4. Environmental Control. True power doesn't just defeat opponents, it reshapes the battlefield. Machiavelli implied this when he wrote about controlling circumstances to secure victory. Men are not defeated by swords alone, but by the conditions you create, his teachings suggest. Direct confrontation is messy, emotional, and risky. It gives your enemy a chance to fight back, to rally support, to turn the tables. Instead, the master strategist attacks the environment, cutting off resources, isolating allies, shifting perceptions, until resistance is futile. In business, this might mean securing key partnerships before a competitor can, leaving them without leverage. Imagine two companies vying for a major client. One bombards the client with pitches and promises, desperate to close the deal. The other quietly builds relationships with the client's suppliers, partners, and advisors, creating a web of influence. By the time negotiations begin, the silent company has already tilted the playing field. The client doesn't choose them because of a flashy presentation. They choose them because the environment makes it the only logical choice. In personal life, environmental control can be just as powerful. Consider a toxic friend who thrives on drama, always pulling you into their chaos. The modern response is to confront them, demand change, or cut them off loudly. But what if you used silence? Withdraw your attention gradually. Respond minimally. Let their outbursts go unanswered. Without your engagement, their influence wanes, their drama finds no audience, and their power over you dissolves. You didn't attack them, you changed the conditions that sustained them. Silence is your greatest ally in this strategy. It creates distance, uncertainty, and doubt without firing a shot. It's invisible, leaving no trace of your intent. Take a workplace rival as an example. They're loud, charismatic, and always pushing their agenda. Instead of competing directly, you work quietly. You build trust with colleagues, deliver results consistently, and let the rival's brashness alienate others. Over time, their support erodes. Meetings shift in your favor. Opportunities flow your way. By the time they notice, they're isolated and you're untouchable. This is silent warfare, not attacking the person, but dismantling their foundation. Machiavelli's genius was in recognizing that power is contextual. No one, no matter how strong, can thrive in an environment that works against them. A lion is fearsome in the open savanna, but trap it in a cage and it's powerless. Your job as a strategist is to build that cage, not with force, but with subtlety. In a negotiation, this might mean setting the agenda before talks begin, framing the discussion in your favor. In a social conflict, it's spreading subtle doubts about your opponent's credibility, letting others question them without you saying a word. In a career, it's positioning yourself as indispensable, so promotions come to you naturally. The beauty of this approach is its efficiency. You don't need to fight when the battlefield fights for you. Part 5. The Final Strike. Injuries must be done all at once so that, being tasted less, they offend less, Machiavelli wrote. This is the final lesson. When you act, act decisively. Half measures breed resentment, retaliation, and renewed threats. Whether you're ending a toxic partnership, outmaneuvering a rival, or seizing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, your move must be final. Silence is the preparation for this moment. It builds anticipation, gathers intelligence, and ensures precision. But when the time comes to strike, there can be no hesitation. Picture a high-stakes negotiation. For weeks you've listened, observed, and let the other side talk themselves into a corner. They've overcommitted, revealed their priorities, and grown complacent, thinking you're passive. Now you deliver a single, unshakable offer, backed by meticulous preparation. They fold, not because you shouted, not because you intimidated, but because your silence made your strength undeniable. The deal is yours, and there's no room for comeback. This is the Machiavellian way. Strike silently, strike completely, and leave no loose ends. Let's explore this in a personal context. Imagine a colleague who's been undermining you for months, taking credit for your work, and sowing doubts about your competence. You could confront them publicly, airing your grievances and risking a messy feud. Instead, you bide your time. You document their behavior, build a stellar track record, and strengthen your reputation with key stakeholders. When a critical project comes up, you present your work with undeniable evidence of your contributions, exposing their deceit without saying a word against them. The colleague's credibility crumbles, and your position is secure. You didn't just win, you ended the threat. Decisiveness is what separates the strategist from the amateur. Machiavelli warned that a wounded enemy is more dangerous than a defeated one. If you strike but leave your opponent with resources, allies, or hope, they'll return stronger, fueled by resentment. In business, this means not just winning a contract, but ensuring your competitor can't recover quickly, perhaps by locking in exclusive partnerships or dominating the market narrative. In personal life, it's not just ending a toxic relationship, but doing so in a way that leaves no room for manipulation or re-entry. The goal is finality, and silence is the path to achieving it. This principle applies across contexts. In a legal dispute, it's building an airtight case while your opponent underestimates you, then presenting it with overwhelming force. In a creative field, it's holding back your best work until the perfect moment, then unveiling it to redefine the conversation. In leadership, it's letting dissenters expose their agendas, then addressing them with a decision so clear and authoritative that opposition fades. The common thread is preparation through silence, followed by action that reshapes reality. This is power in its purest form. Conclusion: become the unreadable. In a world addicted to noise, the silent strategist is king. Machiavelli's lessons: control perception, wield patience, feign weakness, shape the environment, strike decisively, are not dusty relics of a bygone era. They are tools for today's battlegrounds: the corporate boardroom, the digital arena, the social stage. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you gain an edge. Every moment you resist the urge to prove yourself, you grow stronger. Every instance you let your opponents underestimate you, you set the stage for victory. Let's reflect on what we've uncovered. Strategic silence is not about being quiet for its own sake. It's about being deliberate. It's about turning the chaos of the modern world into your advantage. When others shout, you listen. When others react, you plan. When others expose themselves, you remain unreadable. This is the path to power, and it's a path few have the discipline to walk. But you're different. You're here because you know there's a better way, a smarter way, and that way begins with silence. So, here's your call to action. Start today. The next time someone provokes you, pause. Let their words hang. Let their aggression falter. Let their doubt take root. The next time you're tempted to overshare on social media, in a meeting, in a conversation, hold back. Let your restraint speak louder than your words. The next time you face a rival, let silence be your weapon. Observe their moves, exploit their weaknesses, and strike when the moment is yours. This is not just a strategy, it's a mindset. It's the mindset of the unreadable, the untouchable, the unstoppable. Subscribe to this channel for more insights on mastering power without noise. Drop a comment below. Tell me one moment you used silence to win, or one time you wished you had. Share your story and let's sharpen each other. Because in a world of chaos, the one who moves in silence moves undefeated. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves, Machiavelli wrote. Be both. Be the strategist who sees the traps and the predator who strikes without warning. Be the one they never see coming. 46. The world is loud, but you don't have to be. Choose silence. Choose strategy. Choose power. And when you do, you'll find that the battlefield was always yours to shape. Now go out there and make them wonder what you're planning. Because when they're wondering, you're winning.